So, what is non-duality? Perhaps we have heard that it's a kind of philosophy, and that this philosophy is connected to practices like meditation, which together can lead to the possibility of what is called enlightenment. There is truth in this, although we have to add that these comments can only be a pointer. The fact that it is expressed in words means that it can't be the complete truth, which is beyond the range of words. Still, we can get an idea of the direction in which the truth of non-duality is to be found. The idea of non-duality is rewarding as an approach to subjects like philosophy and psychology. And if we're drawn to the idea of pursuing the practical path, then grasping these preliminary ideas about non-duality is a real step on the way to the goal of inner illumination. At this level, we can think about non-duality in three ways. As a philosophical principle, as an experience, as a practical guide in daily life. And if we stay focused and receptive to the true significance of the non-dual philosophy and are willing to adjust our thinking, we'll find ourselves being drawn towards the deeper truth and the possibility of a great inner discovery opens up for us. Let's consider our three ways, first in a brief overview and then in more detail. As a philosophical idea, non-duality means that the highest truth is that there is one reality without limit, without qualities, without any divisions within itself or between itself or anything other than itself. Because there is nothing other. It is one without a second, non-dual. Speaking relatively, we can think of the non-dual reality as that which is real and lasting, underlying the changing appearances that we experience, and which is the ultimate source of those appearances. Considering non-duality as an experience, we can say that it is the experience of complete inner independence and wholeness, of being identified with the source of everything. What kind of experience can this be? It is an experience of such fullness that, as an Upanishad says, one sees nothing else, one hears nothing else, one thinks nothing else, and understands nothing else. It is the ultimate satisfaction which leaves behind no quest or question. Thirdly, we can consider non-duality as a practical guide on how to live well. The question is, does non-duality make a difference? Can it help us to gain useful knowledge and find lasting fulfillment? And the answer is a definite yes. Before we look more closely at these points, I would like to share with you a story. It's a mythological story from an Upanishad. The story goes back to the beginning of time, before the world was peopled, apart from one man who was its only inhabitant. Suddenly, the man was overpowered by the sense of being alone. He was smitten with fear. Then he came to himself and thought, if there is none other than me, why should I be afraid? Fear is always based on the belief that there are others who may pose a threat. But where there is no other, there are no grounds for fear. Realizing this, his fear was dispelled and he was fearless. As the story shows, we are subject to fear as long as we believe that there is anything over and above ourselves that can do us harm. In the non-dual experience of reality, which reveals the nature of our true self, there is no other. So there is no possibility of fear. Now let's take a more detailed look at our three approaches to non-duality. When we think of non-duality as a philosophical idea, what we mean is that non-duality is knowledge, and it is a special kind of knowledge which differs from other kinds of knowledge in essential ways. Our usual way of knowing is through our senses, which are in contact with our body and the world around us, and our mind, which puts all the data together into what we experience. As we know, our senses are sensitive to only a fraction of everything that exists. And our brains and minds are limited in the amount of information they can manage. So they present us with selected aspects of reality. This is how duality arises. Our mind creates a difference, a two-ness between itself and everything it experiences, between subject and object. And from this duality arises multiplicity. Out of the reality that is undivided and formless, we experience space and time and countless forms and qualities. And thus, we seem to live amongst a multitude of others and of occasions for fear. Because of these divisions, ordinary knowledge, which includes our life experience and scientific discoveries, can never be complete or final. We might conclude that true knowledge of reality is impossible. Many philosophers and scientists have held this view or assumption. But non-duality holds out a further possibility, that of awakening in ourselves a different kind of knowledge. In this higher knowledge, there are no dualities or gaps, because it does not come through the mind's usual way of working. How can there be knowledge which does not involve the workings of the mind, and where there is no division between what is known and the knower? It is possible because one of the great truths expressed in the non-dual philosophy is that the nature of ultimate reality is pure consciousness. This consciousness is universal, and our own consciousness is an apparent fragment of that universal consciousness, but in truth identical with it. This identity is realized when consciousness is distinguished from everything we are conscious of. This consciousness is the ultimate light in which all our experiences occur. It is our own true self, and the highest self-knowledge is to know ourselves as that consciousness. The possibility of this direct knowledge is a hidden potentiality within us. But this potentiality can be awakened. And this leads to our discussion of non-duality as experience. What we need to do is to learn to distinguish between consciousness itself and the objects of which we are conscious. And if we can realize that our true self is not the mind, but that fundamental consciousness, then we shall attain to that special kind of knowledge, where there are no divisions or separations. There is only the immediacy of experience itself. It is therefore through contemplating our own consciousness in the deepest sense, which is also our own being in the deepest sense, that we can approach the supreme reality. So how do we awaken the potential for higher knowledge and approach this direct experience? The path begins with hearing the non-dual teachings and recognizing their unique significance. Then, the task is to create conditions in our inner world which help us to become aware of the essential distinction between our consciousness and all the passing objects we are conscious of, between our true being and the passing experiences. This is why the teachers of non-duality and all the genuine wisdom traditions put such a high value on the ability to create inner stillness. The non-dual practices, including meditation, empower us to moderate the restless and often random thinking processes and create deep inward peace. It is in this peaceful inwardness that higher knowledge awakens and reveals the fundamental reality, the one without a second. So finally, let us consider how non-duality can serve as a guide in life. Non-duality is the true foundation of the ethical principles that foster the well-being of the individual and the community. The more we distinguish between our consciousness and what we are conscious of, and think of ourselves as that consciousness, the more we will recognize the same consciousness as the self of those around us. We will realize that the apparent differences between us belong to the level of appearances, not what we really are in our true nature. In the light of these teachings, we'll see that our own highest well-being and happiness come from living in a way that affirms our identity with the conscious reality in all. Then it is clear that to harm another is to harm oneself. In this way, the great metaphysical principle of non-duality is also a firm and practical basis for truly ethical living. It shows why and how we should love truth above all. It enables us to live efficiently in the world because we shall see things in the right perspective. Training our mind in peace and discernment and turning our sense of what we are in truth from the passing experiences to our own consciousness will reveal that the real source of all power and strength is the underlying reality, our own innermost self. This is why non-duality is the supreme relief and fulfillment.